What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and today I'm here to do my free agency video for wide receivers. I just did my deep dive for the Dolphins' current roster of wide receivers yesterday, so make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it yet. And look, it took me a while to get all the information together for these videos. In between the free agency videos or whatever, I'm actually still pulling together the information for my deep dive videos to do on the Dolphins' current roster. So, it's a lot of work, but I am trying to make sure that I stay on schedule here to get all of these videos out to you, because with every day that goes by, man, more and more information comes out about various different players and what's likely to happen with them. So, and that's actually going to be the case with a few of the players that are on my list today of these wide receivers, these free agent wide receivers. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. As usual, though, I will start off with my position rankings by need. It goes number 1 offensive line with tackles over center, no guards on the list. Running back at number 2, wide receiver, linebacker being a true middle, defensive line starting with edge and tackle, cornerback, tight end, safety, quarterback being backup, and specialists being punter. Now, obviously, depending on what they do with guys like Emmanuel Ogbah, Xavier Howard, Christian Wilkins, obviously some of these things can, change up, but as of right now, and especially because free agency in the new league year hasn't started, it doesn't start for another, 12 days, because it begins on the 16th. So, right now it's just a lot of talk, and nothing really has actually happened yet because the new league year hasn't started. So, but there is a lot of talk. So let's actually go ahead and get into now the wide receivers that I have. As soon as this loads up, there we go. The wide receivers that I have on my list here for free agents. So before I get into it, and I'll mention them individually when I get there, but a number of these wide receivers are actually looking like they're probably just going to stay with the team that they're currently with. So they may even, they may not be potential targets just because of that factor. But all guys on this list would be guys I would certainly look at, because as I mentioned in my video yesterday, I would love to see them keep, obviously Jalen Waddle will be here. I would love to see them keep Matt Collins, who is on this list, and I'll show you, I won't read through his information, but I'll make sure it's in the video. I wouldn't hate if they kept Devontae Parker. I wouldn't hate if they moved on from him. I personally didn't think they should have given him that contract extension, but when he does produce for you when he actually is on the field. So, I wouldn't hate if they kept him, and I think they probably are going to keep him. I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the roster this year. And then, guys like Albert Wilson and Preston Williams, I'm indifferent about. I don't care if they come or if they stay or go. But those are guys that I would get rid of. I would like to see them get a wide receiver in this draft in the early rounds, and I would like to see them go after one of these free agent targets. So I would like to see them keep, those guys that I mentioned up there at the top. Oh, and then you're also going to have Lynn Bowden Jr. in that mix too. So, if you go in with your base wide receiver core being Jalen Waddle, Matt Collins, Devontae Parker, Lynn Bowden, and then if you decide to keep one or both of, Albert Wilson and Preston Williams, then, or, some mix of those guys, and then you also get one of these guys on my list here in free agency, and then also get one of these top receivers in the draft in the first few rounds. And it's, from what I hear about the draft, wide receiver is a position that they're deep at. And actually, one of the big news articles from yesterday from the Combine is that 9 different wide receivers posted a 40 time of under 4.4. There was Thornton, the Thornton kid, who posted a 4.28, I think it was, if I remember correctly. He was the only one that was sub 4.3. But then there were 8 other wide receivers who posted in the 4.3s, which nine wide receivers posting under 4.4 set a combine record. So what I'm saying is that the draft should be deep in wide receiver, and that is by all accounts the case. And so that's why I think that you can get a good wide receiver in the 3rd round. And you know, there aren't as many good linebackers, for example, right? Or running backs. But I do think you can get your running back in the 2nd round. So for me, dream scenario would be if we could somehow get Nakobe Dean, or I mean, even Lloyd, Devin Lloyd, I think it is, right? Devin Lloyd. I doubt he would fall to 29. Nakobe Dean's probably not going to fall to 29. But, you know, if a number of quarterbacks go off the board and defensive linemen, offensive linemen, which a lot of these experts are saying are going to happen, you know, mix in like a Kyle Hamilton and some of these other guys too. Who knows? Maybe Nakobe Dean does fall to 29. That would be my dream scenario, and I'm expecting to go to the draft, so man oh man would I love to see it play out like this. But Nakobe Dean in the 1st round, either Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, or Isaiah Spiller in the 2nd round, and then you get your wide receiver in the 3rd round. Boy oh boy oh boy, that would be a dream scenario for me. But anyway, let's get into this now, because the point of this video, so wide receivers in free agency. The first one I'm going to take a look at is Allen Robinson from Chicago. He's a UFA. He's 29. He is expensive, so maybe not exactly the route you want to go. Although, unfortunately, once you see some of the younger and cheaper options on this list may just end up staying with their team. But anyway, let's keep it pushing. So he was a round 2 pick, 61st overall in 2014, got 8 years in the league, started with the Jags from 14 to 17, 18 to present with the Bears, 100 games played, 95 started, 5,970 snaps, 746.25 per year, so has played, you know, the majority of the season each year. That's a good number of snaps for a wide receiver on a per year basis for the most part. 849 targets, 106.125 per year. You do like to see a number over 100 for a wide receiver when it comes to targets. 495 receptions, so 61.87. You'd like to see this higher, though, for a receiver, obviously. But with Jalen Waddle on the roster, Devontae Parker, if he stays, some of these other guys, especially if you get one of these guys in the draft, then you know, the ball's going to need to get spread around, so it's not that big a deal. And obviously, Allen Robinson is a solid wide receiver, and if you were to add him to the room, for example, and have all those other guys, then, you know, the ball certainly would need play, not to mention tight ends and everything, running backs out of the backfield. So, and Tua's going to spread the ball around. So not something that you necessarily care about. You're not necessarily going to care about us having a wide, you know, one or well, maybe one, but not like 2 or 3. We're probably not going to be the Bengals, at least not right away. Not this year, where we're going to have 2 receivers over 1,000 yards, et cetera, and like 100 catches each and stuff. So anyway, he's got a 58.3 catch percentage, 6,409 yards, 801.125 per year. Good number there. You like to see that though, right? Because, I mean, you throw that into the mix of what we have now. Waddle just had 1,000 yards this season, and now he's with Mike McDaniel, right? So anyway, 64.1 yards per game, 12.95 average, 40 touchdowns, 5 per year, and 42 20-plus yarders. He's got 3 rushing attempts, 0.375 per year, 10 yards, 1.25 per year, 0.1 per game, and 3.33 average. Most of these wide receivers, honestly, aren't even really going to have much in the way of rushing statistics, so honestly, I'm just going to not even bother reading through it. You'll see it up here because it's wide receivers. Not many of them actually do a whole lot of running, or what even would be considered, because even a lot of the like trick plays end up being considered passes because of how they're done. But anyway, 2021 stats, he had 12 games, 11 started, 617 snaps, 66 targets, 38 receptions, 57.6 catch percentage, 410 yards, 34.2 per game, 10.79 average, 1 touchdown and 5 20-plus yarders. Obviously struggled a little bit this year, didn't play the entire year. He is getting older. Obviously, that's part of it. He's 29 now. He did make the Pro Bowl in 2015 and was also the NFL receiving touchdowns co-leader that year. And I don't know why I have it when I usually only leave it when they have. Same thing with running backs. If they have receiving stats, then I'll leave it. Otherwise, if it's just grayed out, they didn't have anything because they didn't run the ball, so no point in putting it, and it's not their primary job. Anyway, I've told you guys a million times, I'm like super like OCD about making sure all of my stuff is like super uniform exactly. Anyway, I'm crazy about that. Anyway, 617 snaps this year, 66.9 overall, 67 receiving in 955 snaps 2020, 88.4 overall, 88.3 receiving with a 59.2 rushing. But, you know, and he's been a consistent receiver. So again, I mean, when you look at his receiving, forget his rushing, who cares? Allen Robinson is a guy I would look at. And so far, he's not one of the ones that I've heard is I mean, he could stay with Chicago, that's for sure. But, like, there have been reports about specifically some of these other receivers that are likely to just stay with their team. So 2019, 1,025 snaps, 80.8 overall, 81.1 receiving, 824 snaps in 2018, 74.7 overall, 75.7 receiving, 63.1 rushing, 3 snaps in 2017, but he got great grades on those 3 snaps, an 88.3 overall and a 79.1 receiving. 1,047 snaps in 2016, 69.8 overall, 68.6 receiving. 2015, which was, you know, one of his best years in the year he went to the Pro Bowl, etc. 983 snaps, 84 overall, 83.8 receiving, and 516 snaps in 2014, 69.4 overall, 68.2 receiving. All right, now we move on to the next guy. This is a guy I would really like to look at, although he did just get injured this, and it was an ACL if I'm not mistaken. He just injured this past season, so he missed like the last, you know, handful of games or whatever. Chris Godwin, but he's one of the guys that I've heard is likely to get signed back just with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I've heard the Bucks want to bring him back. He is one of the younger options that I was talking about, although he does have a pretty high current cap hit or APY. So, you know, there is that, but you know, with as much money as they got, and they're definitely going to let a number of guys go at some point, so they'll have plenty of money. They could do it, and you know, Devontae Parker's cap hit is going down over the next couple years, where his contract currently stands. So, you know, I wouldn't totally hate it if they spent a good amount of money on one wide receiver in free agency, because like I said, I want them to get one, and then I want them to get one in the draft, so, and add it to the room that you currently have, and some of those guys that are expected to for sure be here this upcoming season. So, but Chris Godwin may not be available, as it turns out, unfortunately, so we'll see how that plays out. You never know, though. It could go either way. Again, still a guy I would for sure look into. Round 3, 84 overall in 2017, 5 years in the league, all with the Bucks. 72 games, 47 started, 3,608 snaps, 721.6 per year, 482 targets, 96.4 per year, 342 receptions, 68.4 per year, 71 catch percentage, 4,643 yards, 928.6 per year, 64.5 per game, 13.55 average. You know, add a guy like him to the room, he could really elevate it. And he's younger, so you could probably get him for at least a few years, right? 29 good production, continued production on this level for about, you know, another few years. And, you know, in a Mike McDaniel kind of offense. So, you know, 29 touchdowns, 5.8 per year. He could be a good complement to that room. 53 20-plus yarders. Here's his rushing stats. In 2021, like I said, he did get injured, so he missed the last few games. 14 games, 14 started, 833 snaps, 127 targets, 98 receptions, 77.2 completion percentage. Still got to 1,103 yards, though. 78.8 yards per game. 11.26 average, 5 touchdowns, 15 20-plus yarders, and then actually did have some rushing stats and set some career bests. 4 attempts, 21 yards, 1.5 yards per game, 5.25 average, and 1 touchdown. But again, like I said, he's, from what I hear, he's most likely just going to end up staying with the Bucks. So we'll see how it plays out. Pro Bowl in 2019, was also second team All-Pro, and obviously did win the Super Bowl with the Bucks in 2020 during Super Bowl 55. Okay, so for his grades this past year, for the 14 games he did play, 81.3 overall, 79.4 receiving, 68.5 rushing, 675 snaps in 2020, 80.3 overall, 80.9 receiving, 937 snaps in 2019, had a 90, obviously posted some elite grades here, 90.7 overall, 90.4 receiving, 63.1 rushing, but who cares, 717 snaps in 2018, 80.4 overall, 79.6 receiving, 446 snaps in 2017, 81.8 overall, and 80.3 receiving. Now, Davante Adams, the next guy in this list, I think he's going to probably end up staying in Green Bay. Although I haven't seen any reports in the same way as I've seen with Chris Godwin and a couple of these other guys on this list that we'll get to in a minute. But I think he's most likely going to stay in Green Bay, but if he does go somewhere else, it probably won't be the Dolphins. But obviously having a talent like him on the roster, even though he's, 30 and does have a pretty high cap hit, would be pretty phenomenal and just make our wide receiver room, that much more dominant and actually get pretty close to elite status. Obviously, he would have to continue to play at elite status for a wide receiver now that he is getting past the 30 mark, but we'd love to see him in that room, but probably not going to happen. Again, though, do your due diligence. He was a round 2 pick, 53 overall in 2014. Similar to Xavier Howard, performing at an elite level for a second round pick, right? 8 years in the league, Green Bay Packers the whole time from 14 to present, 116 games played, 109 started, 6,481 snaps, 810.125 per year. So he's out there a lot. Got 1,012 targets, 126.5 per year, 669 receptions, 83.625 per year, 66.1 catch percentage, 8,121 yards, over 1,000 yard per year, 1,015.125, 70 per game, 12.14 average, 73 touchdowns, which is almost 10 per year, 9.125. So you love to see it. And that's what I'm saying. You'd love to see a guy like this, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too high, but again, gotta do your due diligence, because if you could, and you can get him for a reasonable price or whatever, then go for it, right? Anyway, 20 plus 49 20 plus yarders, and his 2021 stats: 16 games played, 16 started, 886 snaps, 169 targets, 123 receptions, 72.8 catch percentage with 1,553 yards, 97.1 per game, 12.63 average, 11 touchdowns, and 19 20-plus yarders. And obviously he is a multi-time Pro Bowler, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So 5 years straight, and then obviously All-Pro in 20 and 21 as well, and was the NFL receiving touchdowns leader in 2020. And I think he had 22, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty outrageous. So, and then when you look at his grades, didn't start out too hot grade-wise, but obviously improved the entire way, and he's been nothing but elite the past few years. So, 886 snaps in 2021, 92.7 overall and receiving grade, 774 snaps in 2020, 92.2 overall and a receiving grade. Same thing for both. 678 snaps in 2019, 83.5 overall, 84.4 receiving. 953 snaps in 2018, 87.8 overall, 87.5 receiving. 777 snaps in 2017, 80.5 overall, 79.4 receiving. 913 snaps in 16, 70.2 overall, 69.8 receiving. 762 snaps in 15, 57.7 overall, 57.4 receiving. 738 snaps in 2014, 60.5 overall, and a 60.3 receiving. And those actually should both be yellow. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, probably not going to get Adams, but we'd love it, right? And pipe dream kind of thing. But, you know. Anyway, now we move on. Juju Smith-Schuster's next on my list from Pittsburgh. He's in some void years. He's 26, still pretty young. So part of the reason why I put him on here, although I'm not as high on him as some of these other guys, but still a guy that I would, you know, consider doing my due diligence on and, you know, potentially throwing into that mix. And I think he could be a good contributor, depending on who they keep, though, because, you know, he's kind of like a third or fourth guy, I think. And I don't know. He's all right. He's solid. I have him on the list for a reason. Like I said, I think he could be a good contributor, but again, certainly not like a Devontae Adams or, you know, even a Chris Godwin or even a couple of these other guys that are on this list. I would take Allen Robinson over him, I would think. Anyway, let's continue on. Round 2 pick, 62nd overall, 2017, 5 years in, all with the Steelers. 63 games played, 51 started, 3,382 snaps, 676.4 per year, 471 targets, 94.2 per year, 323 receptions, 64.6 per year, 68.6 catch percentage, 3,855 yards, 771 per year, 61.2 per game, 11.93 average, 26 touchdowns, 5.2 per year, 21 20-plus yarders, handful of rushing statistics. Like I said, most of them either don't have it or very little. So 2021, only 5 games played and started, 222 snaps. I think he got hurt this year. 28 targets, 15 receptions, 53.6 catch percentage, 129 yards, 25.8 yards per game, 8.6 average, 1 20-plus yarder with a handful of rushing stats, 3 attempts, 9 yards, 1.8 per game, 3 average, and 1 touchdown. Did make the Pro Bowl in 2018 and was part of Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team in 2017. He's shown potential. Like I said, I think he'd be a decent addition to the room, but certainly wouldn't be my top target on this list. All the guys ahead of him on this list would be are for sure ahead of him, and a couple guys after him would be ahead of him, but still a guy I would do due diligence on. All right. Grades, 222 snaps this year, 59.2 overall, 60.8 receiving, 54.2 rushing, 923 snaps in 2020, 68.2 overall, 67.7 receiving, 573 snaps in 2019, 63.1 overall, 63 receiving, 960 snaps in 2018, 81.8 overall, 81.2 receiving, and 63.1 rushing, 704 snaps in 2017, 76.6 overall, 77.6 receiving, and there you have it. All right, next up on the list is Mike Williams. This is another guy, though, that I actually would love to have him on the roster. I think he'd be a great addition into this locker room, into this receiving core. However, I just heard today that they're not likely to let him go. They will probably be franchise tagging him if they can't come to an agreement on a new deal. So probably not going to happen. I wouldn't expect this to happen. Unfortunately, that's the shitty part about this is a lot of these receivers, or, you know, a number of them, and certainly some of the better ones are probably going to end up back with their same team. So might not even be options coming off the table potentially. So anyway, a round 1 pick, 7th overall in 2017, 5 years in the league, all with the Chargers from 17 to present, 72 games played, 46 started, 3,391 snaps, 678.2 per year. 393 targets, 78.6 per year, 227 receptions, 45.4 per year, 57.8 catch percentage. Does have some things to work on for sure, but it certainly helped them have success, and certainly has helped Justin Herbert in a lot of ways. 3,662 yards, 732.4 per year, 50.9 per game, and 16.13 average. Like those numbers, though, overall. 26 touchdowns, 5.2 per year. I mean, honestly, and 47 20-plus yarders. Honestly, if you put the level of production that any of these receivers have, though, into the mix of this locker room, and they continue that level of production, we should be happy with it, though. So, and that's why all these guys are on the list, because I think that any one of them would be a good addition, although I do have some that I like more than others. Here are his rushing statistics. In 2021, he had 16 games played, 14 started, 896 snaps, 129 targets, 76 receptions, 58.9 catch percentage, 1,146 yards, 71.6 per game, 15.08 average, 9 touchdowns, and 17 20-plus yarders. All right, now as for his grades real quick, 896 snaps this year, 77.6 in both overall and receiving, 799 in 2020, 72.7 overall, 72.3 receiving, 57.2 rushing, 839 snaps in 19, 74.1 overall, 74.6 receiving, 56.6 rushing, 622 snaps in 18, 81.8 overall, 81.3 receiving, 70.3 rushing. And 2017, 235 snaps his rookie season, 52.6 overall, 51.8 receiving. All right, the next guy, I think he's probably the oldest on this list. And, will he be able to keep up the same kind of production that he had like this past year? He hasn't really had a lot, he hasn't really been a stud for most of his time in the league, although this past year, he really kind of came into his own, it seemed like, right? As a savvy, crusty old veteran or whatever. And I think he would be an interesting guy. He's the closest. I know a lot of people have been talking about, Deebo Samuel, and is Mike McDaniel going to try and find his next Deebo on this roster and all that stuff. And he said some stuff about, bro, you don't find Deebo by looking for Deebo, right? Like, it just happens. I think Cordero Patterson could be the closest to a potential Deebo on this list, though. Out of all the free agent guys, I think Mike McDaniel could probably use a guy like him in that similar fashion because that's what he does already, right? And he's shown to be actually pretty damn good at it. So if we were to get a Cordero Patterson, I would look at him as a guy that would be potentially our Deebo Samuel if that were to happen. Anyway, obviously currently with the Falcons, he is 31. He is pretty cheap overall, though. That's the thing. That's one of the intriguing parts of it. He was a first-round pick in 2013, 29th overall, 9 years in. Started with the Vikings from 13 to 16. Spent 17 with the then Oakland Raiders, 18 with the New England Patriots, 19 to 20 with the Bears, and then 21 to present with the Falcons. And so, obviously bounced around a little bit. Didn't quite live up to the first-round draft status. And then, and has then moved around. And when you see like his grades and stuff like that, his snaps and all of that, early on in his career, didn't show as much as you probably would like, but he's kind of, like I said, kind of come into his own. Anyway, let's go through this. 143 games played, 49 started, 3,126 snaps, 347.3 per year, 397 targets, 44 per year, 268 receptions, 30 per year, 67.5 catch percentage, 2,635 yards, 293 per year, 18.4 per game, 9.83 average, 15 touchdowns, 1.7 per year, and 10 20-plus yarders. Now, he is actually a guy who's going to have a substantial amount in the rushing game because he actually was considered a running back more so early on in his career, and you could technically put him in either category, running back or receiver, although I do have him obviously on the receivers list. He's got 320 attempts, 35.6 per year, 1,635 yards, 181.7 per year, 11.4 per game, 5.11 average, 14 touchdowns, 1.6 per year, 29 10-plus yarders. But that's what I'm saying. He's kind of just, as he's evolved through his career, he's just kind of become that, Swiss Army knife kind of gadget player on the offense, and he rushes, he receives, he does it all. Anyway, 2021, he did set a bunch of career bests, set or tied. He had 16 games played, 13 started, 473 snaps, 69 targets, 52 receptions, 75.4 catch percentage, 548 yards, 34.2 per game, 10.54 average, 5 touchdowns, 8 20-plus yarders, with 153 rushing attempts, 608 18 yards there. So obviously over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And then 38.6 per game, 4.04 average, 6 touchdowns, and 20-plus yarders. He did make it to a number of Pro Bowls, though, even early on in his career. So he showed some flashes, but then, kind of fell off, showed some other flashes, and then, whatever. But 2013, 16, 19, and 20, he made the Pro Bowl, and he was All-Pro all 4 of those years. So he does have some good, I guess, accolades in his career, but he's been kind of up and down, obviously jumped around with a number of teams and hasn't completely lived up to that first round potential, but I think could be a really intriguing piece. And he does have some other awards and records to his name. He did make it to the NFL's 2010s All-Decades team. He was Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie team in 2013, All-Pro second team in 2015, and 2018 and 2019. Actually, that is wrong because he made it to or it might have been that he was second team, but then he went as no, because that's not. Anyway, I think that just needs to come off because he made it in 2019. Whatever. Mistakes happen, man. I'm just a stickler about it all being correct. But he was also Super Bowl champion in 2018, Super Bowl 53. So he does actually have a pretty solid resume, even though he's had a hard time finding a home and really sticking in one place. He also does have, or is tied for a record, 109-yard play, and is tied for career kickoff return touchdowns at 8. So he obviously also does have some return potential as well. Some pretty good return potential as well. So intriguing player to potentially bring in. And I haven't heard necessarily that he is going to stay with the Falcons. And, you know, the history of his career is he's jumped around a bit. So again, like I think that he would be the closest thing to a Deebo Samuel if we were to bring him in. And I think it's pretty obvious, but yeah, anyway, so 473 snaps this year, 82.2 overall, 91.4 receiving. Why that is yellow, I don't know. That's weird. That was a mistake. Anyway, 64.7 rushing and 201 snaps in 2020, a 70.1 overall, 69.6 receiving, 68 rushing, 202 snaps in 19. And look, that's what I'm saying. His snap counts, his entire career have been pretty low overall, obviously jumped around a lot. Anyway, 54.7 overall, 53.7 receiving with a 60.6 rushing grade. That should be yellow. 230 snaps in 2018, 72.6 overall, 73.6 receiving, and a 69 rushing. 430 snaps in 2017, 65.5 overall, 65.4 receiving, 68.3 rushing. 531 snaps in 2016, 64.5 overall, 64 receiving, 69.7 rushing. 57 snaps in 2015. 67.6 overall, 62.9 receiving, 67.8 rushing, 566 snaps in 2014, 67.2 overall, 63.7 receiving, and an 82.4 rushing. And his rookie season, one of his better years, 436 snaps, 80.3 overall, 72.2 receiving, and a 95.1 rushing. All right, now we move on to the next guy on this list, a relatively young guy, relatively cheap, Zay Jones from the Las Vegas Raiders as an unrestricted free agent. He was a round 2 pick, 37 overall, 2017, 5 years in. Started with the Bills from 17 to 18. In 2019, he was with the Bills and then went later on in that year, went to the Oakland Raiders, and has been with the now Las Vegas Raiders ever since. He has 79 games played, 45 started, 3,292 snaps, 658.4 per year, 311 targets, 62.2 per year, 171 receptions, 34.2 per year, 55 catch percentage, 1,884 per yards, 376.8 per year, 23.8 per game, 11.02 average, 11 touchdowns, 2.2 per year, 1120 plus yarders. Again, this is not one of the guys that I'm super high on, but I did think he was worth at least putting on the list, and a guy that I think would be worth taking a look at depending on how the landscape falls. Because again, I would like them to at least get one addition to this room. And like, if you couldn't get any of the rest of the guys on this list, then I wouldn't hate bringing in a guy like Zay Jones just to kind of complement the room. 2021 stats, 17 games played, 9 started, 640 snaps, 70 targets, 47 receptions, 67.1 catch percentage, 546 yards, 32.1 per game, 11.62 average, 1 touchdown, 8 20-plus yarders, and a little bit here in the rushing game too. As for his grade, 640 snaps in 2021, 70.2 overall, 70.1 receiving, 53.2 rushing, 289 in 2020. Had him a 62.9 overall, 58.6 receiving, 630 snaps in 2019, 53.7 overall, 52.1 receiving, 56.6 rushing, 941 snaps, 28 in 2018, 62.2 overall, 60.4 receiving, 56.2 rushing. And then in 2017, 792 snaps, 55.2 overall, 52.6 receiving. All right, next is Matt Collins on this list. I'm not going to read through all of his stuff because I did it yesterday in the video, doing my deep dive into the Dolphins' current wide receivers. The one thing I will say is like I said, and I did mention this at the beginning of the video, I would bring him back. So I guess technically he's a guy that you could, bring in free agency, but he's already here, so I don't really count him in that regard. I would also target one of these other receivers on the list, but I would bring Matt Collins back in to be, one of the foundational pieces for this wide receiver room. And then just, of course, I'll scroll through it here so you guys can see it. He was a Super Bowl champion in 2017. So there is that. All right, next guy on the list, another one of the youngsters, potential free agent targets that's cheap, probably going to end up staying with Dallas. He also did suffer an injury this year too, which is unfortunate, but it looks like Dallas probably is going to look to try and keep Michael Gallup. So might not be on the table for much longer. We'll see. But again, if he, shakes loose, a guy I would really like to see them try and bring in, at least, do your research and talk to him and so on and so forth. Talk to his agent, right, if you can and whatever. Because like I said, he's higher up on the list. Like I would have Michael Gallup ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster and whoever it was I just did before Matt Collins. Who was it? Zay Jones. Even probably above Allen Robinson just because he's younger. But like close up, younger and a lot cheaper. But definitely closer up there on my list as far as who I would target, but might not even really have that chance. Anyway, he was a round 3 pick, 81 overall in 2018, 4 years in, all with the Cowboys so far, 55 games played, 43 started, 3,087 snaps, 771.75 per year, 348 targets, 87 per year, 193 receptions, 48.25 per year, 55, .5 catch percentage. So it does need to catch the ball a little more often for sure, but things that can be worked on. 2,902 yards. Hit that jugs machine, boy. Still getting 725.5 yards per year, though. Obviously, could probably get that up to 1,000 if he caught the ball a little bit more. But anyway, 52.8 per game, 15.0 for average. A lot of deep shots, though, right, too. So 15 targets. 15 touchdowns, 3.75 per year, and 35 20 plus yarders. And then 2021 stats, 9 games played, 8 started. Like I said, he did suffer an injury this year, 498 snaps, 62 targets, 35 receptions, 56.5 catch percentage, 445 yards, 49.4 per game, 12.71 average, 2 touchdowns, and 6 20 plus yarders. For his grades in 2021 on those 498 snaps, 73.4 overall, 73.1 receiving, 1,004 snaps in 2020, 66.3 overall. So high volume target or high volume snap player in 2020, 66.3 overall, 67.1 receiving, 846 snaps in 2019, 74 overall, 74.4 receiving, 739 snaps in 2018, 60.3 overall, and 60 receiving. Now that moves us to Odell Beckham Jr. from the Rams. He's in void contract years. Actually has a pretty low current APY. He is 30 though. He's actually not super high on my overall list, but again, I think a player of his caliber you should definitely take a look at. Although it seems like from recent comments, the Rams actually are going to try and keep him. So again, another target that may not even necessarily be a target at all because might just stay with the team that they're with. round 1 pick, 12 overall and 14, 8 years in the league, 14 to 18 with the Giants, 19 to 20 with the Browns, and then 2021 spent a little time with the Browns before then obviously coming over to the Rams, and then Rams have him right now, and he looks like he's probably going to stay with the Rams. And I don't see why he wouldn't, because they just won the fucking Super Bowl, and, you know, they could be a favorite to go again next year. So anyway, 96 games played, 91 started, 5,673 snaps, 709.125 per year, 880 targets, 110 per year, 531 receptions, 66.375 per year, 60.3 catch percentage, 7,367 yards, 920.875 per year, which is pretty good, even though his catch percentage is a little bit low. Obviously, again, another guy who they take a lot of deep shots to, but anyway, 76 point, which is going to drop your catch percentage a bit, because those are obviously a less probable, you know, reception. So anyway, 76.7 yards per game, 13.87 average, 56 touchdowns, 7 per year, 26 20-plus yarders. And he does actually have a decent amount of rushing stats, 23 attempts, 2.875 per year, 170 yards, 21.25 per year, 1.8 per game, 7.39 average, 1 touchdown, 1.125 per year, and 4 10-plus yarders. 2021 stats, 14 games played, 13 started, 666 snaps. Ooh. 82 targets, 44 receptions, 53.7 catch percentage, 537 yards, which is kind of funny, right? The catch percentage and the yards are the same numbers. Anyway, 38.4 yards per game, 12.2 average, 5 touchdowns, 7 20-plus yarders, and a couple rushing stats here. Obviously made the Pro Bowl in 14, 15, and 16. Also made Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team in 14, Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2014, All-Pro Second Team in 15 and 16, and is now a Super Bowl champion with the Los Angeles Rams, who just won Super Bowl 56 in 2021. So on that 666 snaps of 2021, he had a 67.8 overall, 68.3 receiving, 61.5 rushing, 316 snaps in 2020, 75.3 overall, 73.7 receiving, and a 90.2 rushing grade, 993 snaps in 19, 68.7 overall, 69.4 receiving, 58.3 rushing, 716 snaps in 2018, 90 overall, 89.9 receiving, 49.8 rushing, 211 snaps in 2017, 69.2 overall, 70 receiving, 63.1 rushing, 1,002 snaps in 2016, 87 overall, 87.5 receiving, 56.6 rushing, 998 snaps in 2015, 88.1 overall, 90.1 receiving, 59.2 rushing, and 771 snaps in 2014, 90.8 overall, 91.2 receiving, with a 60.5 rushing. Next up on the list is Christian Kirk from Arizona, a UFA, 26. He's younger, he's cheaper. He's an intriguing guy, again, that I would bring in to the room. Would be a solid addition. And he actually could be a more realistic target, honestly, especially with a number of these guys most likely staying with their current teams. He was a round 2 pick, 47 overall, 2018, 4 years in, all with the Cardinals so far, 56 games played, 41 started, 3,008 snaps, 752 per year, 358 targets, 89.5 per year, 236 receptions, 59 per year, 65.9 catch percentage, 2,902 yards, 725.5 per year, 51.8 per game, and 12.3 average, 17 touchdowns, 4.25 per year, 29 20-plus yarders. He also has a handful of rushing stats. I'll just let you look at him. In 2021, 17 games played, 11 started, 894 snaps, 103 targets, 77 receptions, 74.8 catch percentage, 982 yards, 57.8 per game, 12.75 average, 5 touchdowns, 16 20-plus yarders, with 1 rushing attempt for 11 yards, 0.6 per game, 11 average, and 1 10-plus yarder, obviously. He did make it also another player on the Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team for 2018. In his grades, he has 894 snaps this year, 72.7 overall, as well as receiving with a 63.1 rushing, 781 snaps in 2020, 62.3 overall, 62.5 receiving, 69.2 rushing, 791 snaps in 2019, 62.5 overall, 62 receiving, 71.7 rushing, and 542 snaps in 2018, 70.3 overall, 70.1 receiving, and a 62.5 rushing. And I think the final guy on this list, the final guy on my list of potential targets for the Miami Dolphins in free agency would be DJ Chark from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is 26, another younger, relatively cheap option that could be a solid complement, I think, to the room. Draft status, round 2, 61 overall, 2018, 4 years in, currently all with the Jags. 43 games played, 30 started. 2014 snaps, 503.5 per year, 265 targets, 66.25 per year, 147 receptions, 36.75 per year, 55.5 catch percentage, 2,042 yards, 510.5 per year, 47.5 per game, 13.89 average, 15 touchdowns, 3.75 per year, 20 plus yarders. Has a handful of rushing stats. In 2021, 4 games played, 4 started. I think he got hurt this year too. A number of these guys got hurt this year, including Godwin and Gallup. Anyway, 170 snaps, 22 targets, 7 receptions, 31.8 catch percentage, 154 yards, 38.5 per game, 22 average, 2 touchdowns, 3 20-plus yarders. And he did make it to the Pro Bowl in 2019. And for his grades, he's got a 65.9 overall on 170 snaps this year, with a 64.1 receiving, 702 snaps the previous year. 71.3 overall, 71.2 receiving, 851 snaps in 2019. Gave him a 75.2 overall, 75.8 receiving, 59.5 rushing, and 291 snaps in 2018, and 52.4 overall, 51.6 receiving grades. So, whoo! There you have it. A lot to get through. I know these videos kind of, tend to be a little bit long, but there is a lot of information, and I do want to also try and give you some personal analysis and opinion of these guys as well. Although, I'm trying to do my best to make sure I keep it as, concise as I possibly can or whatever, to avoid them being super long, but they all tend to be about 30 to 45 minutes because it's just a lot of information, and I wanted to make sure to do a very thorough and in-depth, analysis for you guys this offseason of potential targets and everything, both in free agency and the draft, and also give you my opinions, my views on how I would build the team, which kind of guys I would go after, and so on and so forth, while also this being a very much a learning process, because again, I learned a lot about a lot of different players that, because most of these players, since they're not Dolphins players, I don't follow them super close, or not as closely as I would Dolphins players. So learned a lot about a lot of different players in the league, and I'm going to learn about a lot about a lot of these young prospects too. And so part of the reason why I hope you guys enjoy these videos, even though they are a bit long, there is a ton of really good information in here. So, like I said, I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy it. And with that, I am going to wrap this one up. Before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, new fan-driven sports app for all of your sports, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like. They got it, and they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, while also providing you with an arena to dispute the terrible officiating. So make sure you look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.
7 seconds left. Tannehill will throw it. And this will end it after the shuttle. Miami running around. Circling. On the go. Gronkowski. Did not let it go. Touchdown. Miraculous in Miami. Stills. They keep their season alive. 69 yards. Wow. Pure joy. Miami wins it.